All right, time to dive deep into a topic that I think a lot of you are going to find pretty interesting. We're talking all about increasing your vertical jump today.
Mm.
And we've got some really cool sources to dig into. We've got this article from Eris, those athletic training experts.
Yeah.
And then we've got a blog post from the legends over at Westside Barbell, strength training royalty. And then we've also got a guide from Supreme Vertical. And, well, their name kind of says it all. They are all about vertical jump training.
Yeah, that's quite a mix of different perspectives there. Should make for a really interesting discussion.
I'm definitely intrigued already. But before we go any further, I
Yeah.
kind of want to step back for a second, just think about why is vertical jump even important? I mean, besides those, epic slam dunk moments, of course.
Well, think of it this way. It's kind of like a measure of overall athleticism. It's not just about how high you can jump. It's about that explosive power, the coordination. Like it's that lightning fast muscle activation all working together.
Okay, so it's more than just a cool party trick.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really a sign of how well your body's working together as a whole.
Exactly.
So whether you're an athlete or just someone who wants to, feel more powerful and agile,
Right.
this deep dive is going to have something for you.
Absolutely.
Cool. So let's get into the actual science behind this whole thing. Like what's actually happening in our bodies when we jump. Eris actually describes the jump as this symphony of muscles
Yeah.
coming alive, which I thought was a really cool way to put it.
Yeah, no, I love that. It really does capture that whole coordinated effort. So you've got your
Right.
quads, your hamstrings, your calves, all those major players in your legs. They're contracting. They're working to extend your hips, your knees, your ankles.
Oh, okay. So it's like a tightly wound spring that's just suddenly releasing all its energy.
Yeah, precisely. And, Supreme Vertical, they actually highlight how a strong vertical jump is super crucial in a lot of sports, particularly those that need those quick, explosive movements.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like I'm thinking basketball, volleyball, even soccer to some extent.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But it's not just about leg strength, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be more to it than that.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot more at play. In fact, Supreme Vertical, they outline 4 key factors that go into how high you can jump. So first, there's muscle strength and power, which, yeah, we kind of touched on that already. But then you also have flexibility and mobility, which is basically how well your joints can move through their full range of motion.
So being able to bend those knees deeply and extend those ankles is super important.
Super important, yeah. And then the third factor is body composition and anthropometry, which that might sound complicated, but it basically refers to your muscle mass and your overall body proportions.
Gotcha. So having longer legs might give you a bit of an advantage, but it's just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Exactly, just one piece.
Okay, so what's that fourth factor?
Yeah.
You mentioned neurological factors and coordination.
Yeah.
And that one really has me curious.
Yeah, that one's really interesting. It's not simply about how strong your muscles are, it's about your brain's ability to actually fire those muscles, but it has to fire them in the right sequence at the right time with the right intensity.
Oh wow. So it's almost like a conductor leading an orchestra.
Yeah.
Each instrument
Yeah.
playing its part at precisely the right moment for that powerful crescendo.
Exactly. Perfect analogy. So if your muscle firing patterns are off, you're not going to generate that same explosive power. And this actually ties into something we're going to discuss later, which is the whole idea of mindfulness and athletic performance.
Ooh, okay. I'm already intrigued. All right. So we need strong muscles,
Yeah.
we need flexible joints, we need the right body composition, and we need a brain that knows how to conduct this whole movement symphony.
Right.
So how do we actually train for that? I'm guessing plyometrics is a big part of the equation here.
You are spot on. Supreme Vertical, they define plyometrics as exercises that involve those really explosive movements like jumping, bounding, things like that. They're designed to increase what's called your reactive strength. Basically, your ability to quickly go from absorbing force to generating force.
Okay, so think landing from a jump and then immediately exploding back upwards. That quick transition, that seems like it would build some serious power.
Exactly. You got it. And actually, both Eris and Supreme Vertical, they offer a whole bunch of different plyometric exercises. Maybe we could start by going through a couple from Eris's 5 explosive jump workouts, just some that really stand out.
All right, yeah, lay them on me.
Okay, so first up, you've got the Toto Charge depth jump. So for this one, you basically step off of a platform, and then you instantly explode into another jump. So it's all about harnessing that energy from that downward motion and converting it into upward power. Plus, it's a great way to really refine your landing technique.
Okay, that sounds pretty intense. I'm sensing that's not something you just jump into, right? Like you got
Oh,
to build up to that.
oh yeah, you definitely want a good foundation before you start, throwing yourself off platforms.
So what's another one that stands out?
They also highlight single leg rocket hops. So, as the name suggests, it's focusing on one leg at a time, which is great because it really engages those stabilizing muscles and challenges your balance.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like building that single leg power,
Yes.
which I can imagine translates to like serious power
Yeah.
in both legs.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So what about supreme vertical? What kind of stuff are they recommending?
Well, they have a really simple one, but it's effective. It's called high object touches. And it's literally what it sounds like. You're just trying to reach up and touch something high. But what's great about it is it mimics the actual movement of a vertical jump. So you're basically training your body to reach higher.
Oh, okay. Simple but effective.
Yeah.
I like it. What about those classic box jumps? Did those make the cut?
Oh, absolutely. Box jumps are a staple. Supreme Vertical actually includes dunks in their top 5 exercises. And obviously, you might not be aiming for the MBA or anything, but the idea is the same. You're building explosive power, you're refining your jumping form.
Right, right. So, okay, we've got a ton of exercises here. Sounds like we've got like a whole menu of explosive movements to choose from. But before we all start like jumping off furniture and stuff, maybe we should talk a little bit about safety, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Safety is paramount. Both Eris and Supreme Vertical, they really stress the importance of proper form and technique to prevent injuries. And they also really emphasize the need for like a tailored program. You want to start slow, gradually increase the intensity as you get stronger.
Yeah, so don't go jumping into those depth jumps right away.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better to start with something a little more basic and build up that strength and coordination.
Exactly. And, if you're completely new to plyometrics, it's always a good idea to consult with, like a qualified professional, someone who can kind of look at your current fitness level and create a safe and effective program for you.
Solid advice. Okay, so we've explored these explosive workouts. We talked about the importance of safety, but now I want to bring in the perspective from Westside Barbell because they're known for their like pretty unique strength training approach.
Yeah, they're definitely a bit different.
And I'm curious to see how that applies to vertical jump training.
Yeah, so Eris and Supreme Vertical, they focus primarily on those plyometrics, but Westside Barbell, they really emphasize building a really solid foundation of strength. They see that as the base for developing explosiveness.
Okay, I'm interested to hear more about their methods. Like why do they emphasize that strength base so much?
Well, they actually have 4 key training methods that they use. So there's the maximal effort method, the dynamic method, the repetition method, and then a method that's all about developing explosive strength through fast velocity training.
Okay, well, slow down, slow down. Let's break those down one by one. What's the maximal effort method all about?
So that one involves lifting really heavy weights, but for low reps. So you're basically pushing your muscles to their absolute limit, which builds that raw strength, which they see as the foundation for everything else.
Okay, so we're talking like 1 rep maxes, really testing your strength.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about the dynamic method?
The dynamic method focuses on lifting slightly lighter weights, but the key is you're lifting them with explosive speed. And this helps to develop what's called your rate of force development, which is like how quickly you can generate force, which is, as you can imagine, really important for jumping.
Yeah, because it's not just about how much you can lift.
Yeah,
It's about how quickly you can generate that force.
exactly.
Okay, I see the connection there. All right, what about the repetition method?
That one involves higher reps with a more moderate weight. And that's really targeting muscular endurance and hypertrophy. So basically building those muscles bigger and stronger.
Gotcha, okay. And then their 4th method, that's the one that's focused specifically on explosive strength.
Exactly. So that's using exercises that are performed with really high velocity, really trying to, maximize that speed.
Okay, so basically, Westside Barbell's philosophy is like you need to develop strength in all these different ways.
Right.
And that's what creates like a well-rounded athlete who's really primed for explosiveness.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. You need that strong foundation before you can start, launching yourself into the air.
Yeah, that's the key.
Okay, so speaking of launching yourself into the air, I know that Westside Barbell has their own interesting take on depth jumps, right?
They do,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's their spin on it?
So they actually make a distinction between what they call depth jumps and depth drops. And the key difference is the emphasis on something called the amortization phase.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to break that down for me. What's the amortization phase?
Okay, so it's that split second when you land from a jump, and your muscles are transitioning from absorbing force to generating force. And Westside Barbell believes that the quicker you can minimize that transition time, the more power you're going to be able to transfer into that next jump. So imagine, like a spring. The quicker the recoil, the more explosive the
Oh,
force.
that's a good analogy. Okay, so how do depth jumps and depth drops differ in terms of this amortization phase?
So in a depth jump, you're actively jumping off the platform. So you're already priming your muscles for that really quick amortization phase. Whereas in a depth drop, you're just kind of stepping off. So that transition isn't as quick.
Okay, so depth jumps are more about explosiveness, and depth drops are more about like absorbing that force.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So we got these two types of depth jumps, and the key is that quick transition from landing to taking off again. That's what really builds that explosive power. Okay, and now here's where it gets even more interesting. Because Westside Barbell, they also recommend limiting certain squatting and pulling exercises during depth jump training.
They do.
And that's really intriguing to me. Because, like, wouldn't those exercises actually help build leg strength?
Yeah, you would think so, right. But depth jumps, they actually place a really significant eccentric load on your muscles, particularly the quads. And eccentric load, that's basically the stretching part of the movement, like when you're lowering a weight during a squat. So adding heavy squats and pulls on top of that could increase your risk of injury.
So it's about, like, managing the overall workload on your body and making sure that you're letting those muscles recover properly.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see the logic there. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here this first part of our deep dive. We talked about the science behind the vertical jump, the importance of plyometrics, and then Westside Barbell's really unique approach to strength training. But there's still more to uncover, right?
Oh, yeah. There's definitely more to come. We'll delve a little deeper into Westside Barbell's basic jump program. We'll talk about why they emphasize the posterior chain. And of course, we'll circle back to that connection between mindfulness and athletic performance.
Ooh, okay, can't wait. Stay tuned, listeners, because we're going to be right back after, well, not after anything, because we're just going to keep going. We're just going to jump right into part 2.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so before we got sidetracked, you mentioned something called the posterior chain. What is that exactly?
So the posterior chain, it's basically all those muscles on the back of your body, your calves, your hamstrings, your glutes, even your lower back. And Westside Barbell, they really believe that a strong posterior chain is like essential for generating that explosive upward power.
Right. Yeah, I can see the connection there. So it's all about like those muscles that are propelling you upwards.
Exactly. That's the powerhouse.
Okay, and going back to what we were talking about before, I'm still kind of curious about why they recommend limiting those squatting and pulling exercises while you're doing depth jumps. Like, wouldn't those exercises actually help build leg strength, which you would think you need for jumping?
Yeah, it does seem a little counterintuitive at first, but remember how we talked about the eccentric load of depth jumps?
Yeah, like the stretching of the muscles.
Exactly. So depth jumps, they already place a significant eccentric load on your quads, especially. And if you're adding heavy squats and pulls on top of that, you're just putting even more stress on those muscles, which could actually increase your risk of injury.
So it's all about like strategically managing the workload on your body, making sure you're giving those muscles enough time to recover.
Exactly. Westside Barbell is all about quality over quantity, focusing on exercises that specifically target those muscles that are involved in jumping without, overloading them.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So can you tell me a little bit more about their basic jump program? Like, what kind of exercises are we actually talking about here?
So the basic jump program is designed to build explosive strength and that reactive ability. And it does that through a whole variety of different jumps. It starts off with like more basic movements like seated press jumps, kneeling squats. And then as you progress, you move on to those more challenging exercises, things like box jumps with weights, power cleans off the knees.
So it's kind of like a systematic way to build power. You're starting from the ground up and gradually increasing the intensity.
Precisely.
Okay, and what I really like about their approach is they really emphasize variety in record keeping, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So they believe in constantly challenging your body with different types of jumps.
Right.
And then like meticulously tracking your progress.
Exactly, because that way you can really see how far you've come. And you can identify any plateaus or areas where you might need to adjust your training.
Yeah, I love that because I think that's something that can be really motivating, to actually see how much progress you're making. All right, so we've talked about strength training. We've talked about the nuances of depth jumps. And Westside Barbell's pretty unique training methods. What else should we keep in mind when we're trying to, like, boost that vertical jump?
Well, you know how we were talking about the brain being like the conductor of this whole movement symphony?
Yeah.
That's where mindfulness comes in.
Okay, you teased that earlier.
Hmm.
And I'm really curious to hear more about, like, how mindfulness actually ties into athletic performance.
So think about it this way. You're about to do a box jump, your heart's racing, your muscles are all tense. But now imagine, like, taking a few deep breaths, focusing on the present moment, really feeling the ground beneath your feet. How do you think that mental shift might affect your performance?
Hmm. I mean, I could see how being more present and focused could help you, like, execute the jump with more power and precision. But
Exactly.
but is there more to it than just focus?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mindfulness can also enhance your body awareness. So it helps you really tune in to those subtle sensations in your body, and then you can adjust your movements accordingly.
So it's kind of like it's giving you more control over how you're moving,
Exactly.
and that can actually lead to a more powerful jump.
It can, because that heightened awareness can lead to more efficient movement patterns, better balance, and ultimately a more powerful jump.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never would have thought about applying mindfulness to something as, like, physical as jumping.
Yeah, it's all about that mind-body connection.
That's really cool. All right, so we have covered so much ground in this deep dive.
Mhm.
I mean, we've talked about explosive workouts, plyometrics, Westside Barbell's strength-focused approach, the importance of the posterior chain, and even, like, the mind-body connection through mindfulness.
Yeah.
So before we move on to our final thoughts, what are some of the, like, key takeaways that our listeners can walk away with?
Well, I think the biggest one is, there's no one size fits all approach to increasing your vertical jump. It's all about experimenting, finding what works best for you, for your body, for your goals. And, don't be afraid to seek guidance from a qualified professional.
Yeah, and remember, this is a journey. You know, it's about consistency, it's about making gradual progress, it's about celebrating those small victories along the way.
Exactly.
All right, so on that note, let's wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts and reflections. Stay tuned for our closing remarks. Okay, so we're back. And I feel like we've really uncovered a ton of valuable information about increasing vertical jump.
Yeah, we've definitely covered a lot of ground. So now it's about like taking all this information and turning it into something that, that you can actually use.
Right. So where do we even begin? I think the first thing is just, like, acknowledging that this is a process, right? It's not a quick fix.
Yeah.
Increasing your vertical jump, it takes dedication. It takes consistent effort.
Absolutely. Don't get discouraged if you don't see results immediately. It's all about building that strong foundation. The strength, the flexibility, the proper technique, all of that comes first.
Yeah, and we explored, like, a whole bunch of different exercises,
Yeah.
from those basic squat jumps to the more challenging box jumps, depth jumps.
Hmm.
What's your advice for someone who's, like, listening to all this and they're thinking, okay, where do I even start?
I would say, experiment. Find what works for you, for your body, for your current fitness level. You don't have to do everything at once. Just choose a few exercises that feel right, and then gradually increase the intensity and the volume as you get stronger.
Okay, and don't forget, that wisdom from Westside Barbell about the importance of a strong posterior chain.
Oh, yeah, that's key. Don't neglect those muscles on the back of your body. Those are the ones that are really going to help propel you upwards.
Right, and they also taught us about the importance of, like, variety in training. So keep challenging your body with different types of jumps, and don't be afraid to push those boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, and remember that amortization phase we talked about.
Oh yeah, that quick transition from absorbing force to generating force.
Exactly. That's a key element of explosive jumping. So keep that in mind as you're training.
Right, right. And we've also talked a lot about safety throughout this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get, like, caught up in the excitement of trying new exercises. But proper form, gradual progression, and most importantly, listening to your body.
Yeah.
Those things are absolutely crucial.
Couldn't agree more. And if you're new to plyometrics, or if you have any concerns at all, don't hesitate to reach out to a qualified professional for guidance.
Yeah, for sure. And that brings us back to something we touched on earlier, which is the whole, like, mind-body connection.
Right. As you're embarking on this journey to increase your vertical jump, think about incorporating some mindfulness practices into your routine.
Okay, like what kind of things?
Well, just simple things like focus on your breath, really be present in your body, and notice how even just subtle shifts in your awareness can affect your movement.
So it's not just about building physical strength. It's also about cultivating a more like mindful and connected approach to movement in general.
Exactly.
Okay, I really like that. I think that's a great note to end on. We've explored so much in this deep dive. I mean, the science of jumping, the importance of strength and plyometrics. We talked about all those different training methods, the importance of safety, and then even that fascinating mind-body connection.
It's been quite a journey. And hopefully you feel, equipped with the knowledge and the tools to really create a train approach that works for you.
Exactly. And whether you're, dreaming of those slam dunks,
Hmm.
or you're just trying to improve your athletic performance, or maybe you just want to feel more powerful in your body. We hope this deep dive has given you the inspiration to reach new heights.
So, go out there, experiment, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Absolutely. And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination. So keep exploring, keep pushing those limits, and keep reaching for your personal best. Until next time, happy leaping.